Welcome to the Dudeology Show, where real dudes discuss cool stories, awesome stuff, and killer gear. We're your hosts, the professors of Dudeology. Make sure to check us out, dudeologyshow.com, at Dudeology Show on your socials, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. This episode of the Dudeology Show is brought to you by the Really Good Beer Stop, North Florida's ultimate craft beer store and tasting room, bringing the highest quality craft brews to all you hopheads and casual beer drinkers alike. We offer many grab-and-go bottles and cans, as well as 20 rotating taps ranging from local brews to regional and national craft beers. Stop in and enjoy a pint, then take your favorite beer to go in a crowler, a giant 32-ounce can, for you to enjoy virtually anywhere. As craft beer experts, we're always on the hunt for both popular and hard-to-find beers, so check the beer list daily, then drop by and see if we can help you discover your new favorite brew. Now enjoy the show. Welcome to Dudeology Studios with your hosts, the professors of Dudeology, B, Funny, Money, and Chris got the freaks, and it's a known fact, before I got Jack, I was on the same track. Gambino. We're joined in the studio today by Tim Brack, founder and owner of the Really Good Beer Stop. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey Tim, how's it going?
I'm good.
Awesome.
I wanted an intro like yours, but I didn't get one.
Yeah, well,
Next time.
yeah, next time. Continue
Perfect.
to be a sponsor of the show. Appreciate it. He brought some great beer today too. So before we go any further, we'd like those of you, our listeners out there, to take a minute and click subscribe. It's the button there in YouTube or on iTunes, and then share us on all your socials. And once you do that, you'll have done your part in advancing what we call the movement. That's the effort to encourage and inspire dudes to be better and do great things, ultimately making the world a better place.
Now, Tim, you brought what appears to be some delicious beer in today, what we would refer to here on the show as some good action. And we're going to let you kind of explain some of this to us and kind of do a little tasting. Maybe we can call you our resident beerologist after this. But before we get into like any of this stuff that you brought for us today, tell us a little bit, take us back a little bit. So where does your love affair with beer start?
Yeah, so my wife and I had our first child, and we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And when we did so, we stopped going out to bars, obviously, because you got a 6-month-old at home. So you have to change your place of drinking and hanging out and those types of things. So we went from hanging out in bars to hanging out in our driveway. And at that time, I drank Budweiser, Bud Light, the typical things that we would do, because you don't really grow after college very much until you grow up. Yeah. And I found a place around the corner called Peachtree Growler, and it was up in Peachtree Corners, Atlanta, or outside Atlanta. And what I loved about it is I walked in the first day, they had 40 taps, and in Georgia at the time you couldn't taste the beer. You had to listen and just have them tell you, hey, this is what we think you'd like. So I walked in the very first day, guy Steve that owned it was there, and I said, hey, I've been drinking Budweiser, Bud Light. What do I do? And he said, try this beer. So I took it home, and like every couple days I'd go back and fill up another growler. But what I loved about the place is when I'd go in sometimes, I would ask for the same beer again. He's like, oh, we sold out of it. So now you got to try this one. Now you got to try this one. Now you got to try this one. So it took me from drinking Budweiser, Bud Light to trying other types of lagers, which I brought a couple types today that'll be just different, but down the same path as like the standard domestic beers that everybody can see at the grocery store. And what it did is I saw it continue to expand my palate, and I just fell in love with the concept of teaching people more about beer and why it does what it does, why it tastes the way it does, all the different things that go into it. So it's just kind of this journey that I got on, and then you branch out from lagers and pilsners into maybe like a session IPA into an IPA, and then I love talking to people today that say I hate IPAs because they're too bitter, and a lot of times it's because they got the wrong IPA, or it's just a different one. They've come a long way in how they make those, and it's just super different. And then you guys will get to try a sour beer today, which I'm excited about. It's a
you're excited about tasting it. You're excited about watching us.
I haven't had it yet either, but I'm excited about watching you guys try it.
What do you think is that? Because I feel like we'll call it the craft beer maybe renaissance.
Yep.
Because a lot of these beers are beers that were brewed like hundreds of years ago. But I feel like in the last maybe 10, 15, 20 years, there's been really like an uptick in where it was wineries, now it's breweries.
Yep.
What's the genesis of that? What do
There's just so you had a homebrew movement where people were doing homebrew, and then you both probably had a friend in college that's like, here, try my beer.
You always heard that stuff with like kids, like, hey, yeah, but don't let if you get a bad batch, it could kill you or something like that.
I don't think it'll kill you. It's not going to be any good. But we always had those folks, and what's happened is just more and more brewers are coming around because this local type feel is picking up. This regional type feel is picking up, and you can't go into any city now. I've been to Palatka, and they've got a brewery now in Palatka. I mean, there's all these spots where breweries are popping up because everybody wants their local hangout taproom space. And then to take it a step further, the brewers there are making beer that is then named in part into that town. You got different beers for different parts of the city, and people just fall in love with that just because it's a hyper local type situation versus these big massive entities like Bud and Budweiser, those types of things. But those guys are getting into craft breweries too. They're buying them up all over the country. They're trying to be real strategic in where they pick and choose and who they buy, because they know that this trend is continuing because craft beer is taking over where the other beers are not. And now you got seltzers coming into the market, and they're finding that's a big growth market.
Isn't that just like a Zima?
It's a Zima
reboot kind of thing.
So I don't know how many people remember Zima, but they had a fancy bottle. That was about it.
So what you're saying is that Zima was just ahead of its time.
Way ahead. Had they thrown cherry in it or something, it would have exploded, and you never would have had anything else.
You got the big boom in sparkling water, and then all of a sudden somebody capitalizes and says, "Let's bring Zima back, but in a different. Let's rebrand it."
They just added some grain alcohol.
Everybody's like, it's health kick, seltzer, low calories, perfect timing, right?
But it goes back to what you said originally. These types of beers have been around forever, and I'll nerd out for a minute. I don't know if you guys know where IPA came from or what it means, but IPA stands for India Pale Ale. And everybody's like, all right, what does that mean? So the ales that they had back in England were a specific beer, and then they'd put them on ships and ship them to their troops that were in India. And what they found is when they'd be on the boat rocking back and forth, they'd get there and the beer would be flat. So they said, okay, we've got to hop these up. So they'd extra hop them, put them on the same boat, and ship them over to India. And then they'd get there and they'd be perfectly flavored, great tasting.
And maybe a little stronger too.
Huh? A little stronger. So they would do that, and they named it India Pale Ale because that was the type of beer they were shipping over there. And then there's also another one called the Russian Imperial Stout. Russian Imperial Stouts are uber strong stouts, 12% ABV, just massive beers. And they actually made those back in the day for the Russian families, like the main folks within,
like the czars and stuff.
To keep you warm in Siberia.
Yeah, to keep you warm there. So all
in the gulag when you get sent away, right?
So they all have a name that dates back to those times, and then IPAs have turned into double IPAs, and that's just really an American thing where we took it and doubled it. And then we've also tripled it, and we just continually make it.
So we made it bigger, like we do like to do in America. We take a grain, we make it bigger and more, and all you can eat, and you can supersize it.
Supersize it.
So all these areas of the world or the country, right? You kind of have like to your we Interstate 10's out here, so there's an I-10.
Yep.
High Lie is down in Tampa from Cigar City, so they all have these kind of regional things. Do you guys try to get beers from all over the country, or do you get them from regionally? How does that work?
Yeah, we love supporting local, obviously. So we've always got something on from local, but we have to bring in stuff from other parts of the country just to keep it fresh and keep it different. Like one of the beers we brought today is Illuminated Beer Works. It's really a cool, funky brewery up in Chicago. If you Google them, they'll give you an address, but when you go there, there's nothing there. It's like the Illuminati, basically, of beer.
Yeah.
So it's very odd, but they make unbelievable beer, and every 2-3 months we'll get that hit the market. And so we'll get a couple of cases of it doled out to us, and then we'll sell it out within a day. And so it's just kind of a cool way to do it.
What are some of the big cities? If you get some from Chicago, what other cities are you getting beer out of? Mostly Asheville, I know is a big city.
Yeah, Asheville's a hub. Yeah, Asheville's a hub, and then Florida's got some fantastic breweries too. And we've even got some great ones here locally in town that are making noise on the national scene. But every area, like I said before, kind of has their pockets, and they're starting to grow and grow and grow from there.
So you guys, you were going to this place, in Peachtree Corners, and you're really kind of digging that, and your palate's expanding. You guys end up coming back to Florida and settling in this area. When does this idea start to start to take root in your brain where like, I think I can open a beer store?
Yeah, so we were in Atlanta. We knew we were moving back, so my wife and I started talking about it. She is the smarter one by far, so she went ahead and researched the laws and everything. So we found out in Florida, you could do the same thing as Georgia, but you could also have a package store there too. So you could sell cans of beer to go, you could sell growlers and crowlers, but people could also have a drink. And when we came back here, there was one or two other small places doing it, but not at a larger scale, and definitely nothing at the beach. So we said, okay, when we get back, we're going to open up a beer store, and that was probably 8 months before we even moved back. So we moved back, and then the fun started, because you have to research all the licensing, research all the spaces, and then you find a spot you want to go to, and then, oh, you're not zoned for that area. So we went through 5 or 6 different areas at the beach. We're voted down in our current spot, but then said, okay, we really like that spot, so we came up with a plan as to how we're going to get back in that spot. So it was one of those things where we just didn't give up because we fell in love with the space we were going to.
So you knew when you were moving, when you were relocating from Atlanta to the Jacksonville Beach area, you knew that you were good. Like we're going to start this.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe back a little bit. At what point are you and Angie having that conversation? Where like, hey, we're going to do it. We think we can do this. What this guy's doing, we love that, and we're because there's always a point where you're kind of like pointing no return a little.
Well, it was really funny. So we had our second child in Atlanta. My wife was, he was probably like 2-3 months old. I'm sitting in front of the computer. I remember it vividly, and I remember the beer. It was a Southern Tier Unearthly, which is a double IPA, fantastic beer. I love it. Can't really find it anymore. But I had a 32-ounce growler of it, and I was sipping on it. And my wife's like, well, I want a taste of that.
Sure.
And I gave her just a little tiny taste of it. It's a 9.5%. She hasn't obviously been drinking for 9 months. She finishes about 2 or 3 sips, and she goes, what is in this? And I'm like, what do you mean? She says, it's so flavorful. It's just awesome. And I was like, this. And it was like that aha moment where she then fell in love with double IPAs. And I was like, this is cool. So we both went through this trend of lager, IPA, big double IPAs. She loves sours now. We've also got wine in store now too. So I love the fact that the palate continues to change, and there's always something new coming out within the space that was interesting. So that was kind of the antithesis of saying, okay, there's something here. Let's go do it. And then the other thing we talked about at that time was we went around to there was a group there that was franchising. And they had 5 of these locations in Atlanta. I met with them and said, okay, I'd love to do a franchise in Florida. They said, we're looking to get down there. We'd love that. I said, okay, I'm going to go private shop, all your locations this weekend. So I went to 4 of the 5, didn't get to all of them. But I'm by no means a beer expert now, but I know a lot because I've been in it for 5 years. But at that time I was, this guy that really just liked the path, really liked the concept of drinking different beers. So I'd walk into these places and I'd walk in and say, okay, here's what I'm looking for. And at 2 of the places, the guy behind the counter basically was trying to intimidate me by showing me how much they knew versus it flipping around.
Oh, was it kind of like he made you feel you go to Starbucks sometimes, and if you order it wrong, the barista with the master's degree in art history and the nose ring is going to make you feel stupid.
100%. They want to coach you up on how dumb you are. And so no, I was like, I just feel miserable. And then I went to another one, and the guy was super nice, and they filled a growler, but the keg blew halfway through the growler, so the rest was foam. And he hands it to me, and I said, that's not going to work. He goes, no, that foam will die down, and you're good. That'll be 30. Put a
little nose grease in it.
It's like $22. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Okay.
And so I went back. I talked to my wife, Angie, and I was just like, it can be better. It can be easier. Yeah. So we came back and said, okay, let's do something that is totally not intimidating. Our goal is to do beer classes. Our goal is to have people come in and try new things. And just learn, because it's a fun thing to learn. It's beer. It's not rocket science.
It's not wine.
Yeah. Exactly. I know some of these beers though are like just as strong. So so you mentioned having that double IPA that was like 9%. Yep. There's this place called Avery Brewing out in Colorado, and they make a lot of good beers. I think they're probably one of the first like microbrew. Cause they go back maybe 15, 20 years, maybe even before that. But my brother-in-law brought me this bottle one time. We were on vacation together, and he's like, have you ever had a Mephistopheles? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, a what? And it's got a picture of like this character. It looks like frickin' Satan on it. And I was like, Whoa, dude! And it's a beer.
Oh yeah.
It was like something imperial, like double imperial.
They'll do that, and then they'll barrel age it.
I don't know what they did with it, man,
Yeah,
but it was like we split it. So we split like a 16-ounce bottle or whatever it is, and we were like silenced for the rest of the day. We were just like, and I was like, man, that stuff put you out. And I'm like, I would have never known that though.
No, it's crazy.
If you go in a bar and say, hey, give me an IPA or give me a whatever, you could get one that's like, 4.5%, 5%, or you get one that's like the haymaker over here.
Yeah, they'll range them out for sure.
to your 9%.
I think going back to what you're saying, it's kind of intimidating. Sometimes you go into even a restaurant that has a big beer list, or a bar or a brewery, and you just get the list, and you're like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah,
you might know that you like lager or this or that, but there's 10 lagers, or there's 20 IPAs, and so it can become a bit, pretentious around like, hey, I don't know anything, but I don't want to look like I don't know anything because I'm a dude and I'm supposed to know about beer,
right?
But maybe I don't.
Yeah, and it's so funny. So prior to this whole pandemic situation, when we had people come in and drinking pints, and luckily we can start doing that again, we were running one line. We just call it the OG line, and it was internal. Like my guys and girls knew that line was always where you put like a Bell's Two Hearted or a Stone IPA or a Founders All Day IPA, just something that people would gravitate towards.
Right. So they have kind of like a baseline.
Yeah.
Like if I don't like all these other 19 beers, I'm like,
I could always tell if the 19 were way out of whack at how fast that one sold. So you put on Two Hearted and we'd roll through it. And people are just like, oh, well, I'm just going to go with what I know.
So meaning the other 19 maybe weren't as attractive.
Or super obscure or completely different, or like we get kegs now. Like we've got some new ones from some breweries that are you can only get in that brewery in our store, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
But in the same vein, somebody may not ever know it to know what to order, or to know to order it, and it can be a good thing and a bad thing. So you got to kind of find a way to teach folks in between and say, hey, if you like the Bell's Two Hearted, you should also try this. And that's what we try to get our folks to do when they come in.
Yeah, so they're not just sticking with what they know.
Right.
They're going to expand, and they can do that and feel good about it at Really Good Beer Stop.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And you guys have awesome selections on there. I mean, your crew that works in the store, they're always dialing in. I'll say, hey, I normally drink a High Life or whatever. Or here's what I'm looking for. They're like, oh, try this. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm one of the guys. I really love like the taste of beer. I really enjoy the taste of beer, and having these beers sitting right here is just kind of like really. It's like a kid in a candy store right now. So can we get into some of these? Because I'm getting thirsty at all this beer talk, and we're talking about it. So take us away there, the Beerologist. Now he's gonna.
The first one we'll hop into is from Coppertail. These guys are down in Tampa. It's the Florida Special Lager. And it's just a 3.8% lager. So if you are a Budweiser fan, probably open some here.
Sure. That's good. That's good action right there. That sounds.
If you are a Budweiser fan, domestic fan, those types of things, a lot of the breweries are getting into making these super clean, easy drinking, low ABV type beers.
So this is the Bud Heavy. This is the Bud, Heavy.
This is actually going to have less ABV than a Budweiser.
Okay.
Budweiser's going to be about 5%. This one's going to be at 3.8.
And what would a Bud Light be then? Closer to this?
Bud Light's going to be just over, like closer to 4 or 5%. Yeah.
So a little bit of beer flavored water.
Yep. And this can kind of be that way too, but they add a little more.
Do I sniff it like wine? Do I just drink it?
If you want to be weird,
it smells like beer.
I think that's what they do in
to drink it, right?
In the bougie breweries.
How cool would pinkies out? How cool would cheers, guys? Cheers. Yeah. How cool would that be though if you ordered a beer at a restaurant and they brought you some, and you're like, yeah, that's good. Then they'll pour the rest. I don't know. Have you ever sent a bottle of wine back? Bring you the bottle of wine, and I don't even know what I'm doing. I kind of go through the motions.
You swirl it, because everybody does. You smell it, and that's good. Yes, pour it out, please.
I sent one back. They brought it to me, and they poured it, and there was cork coming out, like it had dry rotted. And I was like, I'm not even gonna. I'm not even. I don't need floaties. Just bring me a beer. Bring me a beer. You don't have to worry about that with beer, right? I think sediment is good in beer, isn't it?
Some of it is, in sours it is. And then this IPA that we brought is a hazy IPA, so. That's where they want it to look chalky.
So tell me the difference in that, because first I think it's awesome. It's badass that Angie will drink the double IPA. Your wife, that's pretty impressive. I tell Cheryl, my wife, all the time. She likes the IPAs, but she likes that. Started liking like the hazy IPAs. We started having some out, I think, out in Colorado.
Yep.
And she's really like, wow, these are really good. Hazy IPA versus just, and I say standard, but like Lagunitas tends to be, I think, kind of a good all-around baseline IPA.
For sure.
So what's the difference between like a Lagunitas type IPA? Is that like a traditional IPA,
Yep.
I guess? And then a hazy IPA.
So they would call Lagunitas is what's considered a West Coast IPA.
Mm-hmm.
Lagunitas is from the West Coast. Sierra Nevada is West Coast, and they do these IPAs that are they're more bitter, and we can talk through exactly how they make them bitter and hazy and all this other stuff. And then what you've seen now is they have hazy IPAs, which they call New England IPAs. So up in New England, there's Treehouse, Trillium, Night Shift, all these breweries. Heady Topper was like the #1 hazy IPA in the country.
Now, Heady Topper, side note, when I lived up in New England, you used to have to drive to Vermont.
Yep.
And you could only buy like one. They only would sell you one case.
Yep.
And they didn't ship it anywhere. But you had to drive across the border to Vermont, and you get one case. We went before, like a guy I was working with. He was like, hey, instead of riding in the car with me to go make some sales calls, we're going to drive across the border separately so we can each get a case. I was like,
Absolutely.
that sounds awesome. So we each had a case. But that stuff is like, I haven't had one in probably 5 or 6 years. Can you even get it?
No, you can't. They can't. And that's what's funny about it. A lot of folks say, hey, my buddy owns a brewery in, Paducah, Kansas. Can you bring it in? And it's all related to a distribution model. So you can't we can't call Heady Topper and say, hey, ship us stuff. Heady Topper is kind of funny too. My first big beer trip, my buddy put it together, and we flew up there in January, and we landed. And the second we landed in Vermont, he said we got to follow the beer truck, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And we would drive and pick up one case of Heady Topper, and we went to 6 stops and followed the beer truck. And both of us would grab, and by the end of it, we had like a hotel cart that we'd wheel in and wheel out every night because it was freezing at night.
That was a lot of Heady Topper to
Oh, it's crazy.
You can't bring it back on the plane.
We wheeled it all back. It was crazy. And he drove it all the way back. It was just nuts. But,
he drove it back from Vermont?
From Vermont.
Did you sell it in the store, or was that just for personal
consumption? No, that was personal consumption. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was really, really wild. But there's always these fun stories of those types of things but the Heady Toppers where, that's like New England IPA, that's where hazy came in.
Okay.
And so now you've got West Coast and hazy. So Lagunitas is going to be a West Coast. The way that they do that though is so beer ABV, so 3.8 on this one, is based on the amount of sugar that's in the beer.
Okay.
The sugar comes from the grain. So when they put grain into a beer, they'll mash it up and then they'll put it in hot water. So it's like steeping tea basically. Mm-hmm. When they're doing that, they're taking all the sugar out of that grain. So the more grain you put in, the more sugar is going to be there. And then what they do is that grain is also what gives it the color. So a stout would use like a dark grain that looks like coffee beans, and where a lager is going to use like a 2-row malt grain, which is just going to be a lighter color. But it all steeps the same way, and it all produces sugars. And then what they do from there is West Coast IPAs, they'll start hopping them right away. Have you guys ever heard of Dogfish Head, like 120 and 90 and 60? So for 60 minutes, they constantly hop it. 90 minutes, they constantly hop it.
So you hop it, you mean they're during the brewing process that they're pouring
just dumping raw hops in there, yep. And then pulling them back out and dumping them back in, pulling them back out so it gets all the oil off the hop. When you put a hop in a beer in the beginning of the boil, it makes it super bitter. So you remember the Keystone bitter beer phase, right? They used to make fun of IPAs and stuff because they were always bitter because they would say, okay, we're going to hop them big on the front end. And then as it cooks the entire time, it's becoming more and more bitter. What they've done now for New England IPAs is they do less hopping on the front. They'll do some for flavor and things like that. But on the back end, they'll do what's called a dry hopping. So when they finish the boil, they'll put it off into a fermenter, let it cool down, and then they'll throw hops in. And it changes, it makes the beer cloudy, but it also gives it a super florally smell.
And it's kind of like a citrusy almost.
Yep.
I don't know is this one right here?
This one is going to be just a little bit different than the last. I thought we'd do another cool lager. Mm-hmm. But this is Illuminated Beer Works. This is a lager, but what they do in this one is they dry hop it. So like I was talking about, at the tail end, they'll dry hop it. It's going to have a different smell than what you had with this first one, but it's going to have at least a little bit more flavor than what you'd see with the first one.
Okay.
You get the first pour this time, Chris.
There we go.
It's a cool can.
These are the guys out of Chicago.
Yep.
We had a guy on that Legal Bill. He's like,
I heard that this morning.
Oh, you listened to Legal Bill?
Yeah. Talking about copyrights. I
Yeah,
didn't hear Ozzy Osbourne on the way in.
You didn't hear Ozzy Osbourne. You didn't hear any of the Crazy Train or any of the. But you did get. But you did get a really good commercial on the front end of this podcast. All right, so
this was good.
So is this? What would this be considered?
This is just considered a lager,
right?
But it's just a dry hop lager. So premium lager from these guys, and then they dry hop it. So think of the difference.
It's got like a better flavor. Not that wasn't bad.
It's not bad.
In fact, if I'm walking off the beach or sitting by the pool, this Florida special Coppertail, they're out of Tampa, correct?
Yep.
Coppertail Brewery. Yeah, they make a good free dive IPA. It's like a lighter IPA.
Yep.
But anyway, this Coppertail Brewing, genuine Florida independent. Yeah, this would actually be a really good pool
drinking beer.
Beach.
3.8%. You're not gonna be bloated and feel like you're.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna probably be safe to have one and then operate your bicycle.
Yeah.
Depends if you poke a key in the bottom. And
Right. But I don't know how much these are going to set me back if I want to go into shotgunning these. Right? That's but this is delicious too because it's got just a little more punch to it.
See, it's got a little bit of a bite to it. That's going to be the hops.
Yeah.
And they're providing a little bit more of a bite.
So that's really good. And this is out of Chicago.
Illuminated.
Chicago. Brewers. Hey, so what's your opinion on? I'm talking about kind of. You had mentioned Keystone, and it makes me think about. I don't know if it's still like a thing anymore. Is it like got cool to drink Pabst Blue Ribbon?
PBR's never left. Yeah,
it's never left. But I feel like that's
very hipster.
more of a thing.
It's very hipster.
And people like sell it, and
you can do tall boys of it for like $1.
Yeah, you see that all the time. $1 Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, we bring it in every now and then. We've kicked around the idea of doing a question mark on our board, and just have it be PBR.
Yeah.
If you go to Vegas, a lot of the places in Vegas that you say, "What's your local like lager?" and every one of them's got their beer name. But if you start asking them what it is, it all tastes the same. It's PBR.
It's PBR. They just pass it off.
And they sell it as a $5. They make great margins.
It's kind of like the old school beer that
they're like, we're brewing our own beer.
You used to be able to buy it in like Sam's and Costco before Costco became Kirkland's brand. It literally just said like beer. Like, why can't they just say beer on it? It's like beer.
It's like death.
Death.
It's like death.
So that was kind of like a renaissance of PBR. Narragansett's another one up in New England. They sell. Do you think that'll ever happen with malt liquor? Do you think it'll ever make a comeback?
I doubt it.
No.
Mad Dog 2020.
No Old English 800 8-ball on the tap.
Let's all be honest though. It all depends on how little funds the college people have on whether or not they buy Mad Dog or Night Train.
If Natty Light goes away, maybe.
Natty. Well, they have like a mean one now. It's like Natty Ice, and I look at that.
It's like water.
Well, it's like I think it's like a headache in a can. It's what it looks. A hangover in a can is what it 100%. Looks like. What's your go-to? What's your go-to
I'm an
beer?
IPA fan. Love it. It's the hazier the better. The more juicy the better. But I'll enjoy a sour every now and then. The other night I had a stout. I can do a stout. I'll just drink one stout, but I won't. I'm not going to go on a binge of drinking stouts. It makes for a bad day the next day.
Now, what's Guinness doing over there? Trying out this. Maybe you do. Maybe you know. Maybe you don't. This nitro IPA thing they're doing, and it's got something inside of it.
Yeah, so their cans have a nitro canister in them that makes them pour. So nitro beer. We'll have it on tap here in Nocatee. We don't up in Jack's. And so nitro basically makes, you see how you have big bubbles on this? Nitro makes them small. So it makes the beer taste creamy because the CO2 is what's making these bigger bubbles. And we'll go back to kind of how, when you're making beer, the ABVs, and I'll come back around to the nitro piece, but the ABV goes up based again once again on the sugar. And then once they dump a yeast strain in there at the very end, the yeast starts eating that sugar, and then that's what carbonates the beer. That's also what brings the ABV in.
Dropping knowledge.
Yeah, so the more sugar that's in there, and it's yeast farts.
There's going to be
you can tell your friend that my beer is made from a yeast fart.
That's what it is.
The yeast eats it, digests it, and gasses it out. So whenever you look in a brewery in a fermenter, there's all this bubbles coming out the bottom of the fermenter, and that's because the yeast is eating and just digesting all the sugar. So the higher the sugar content, the more the yeast has to eat, the higher ABV gets. But then the ABVs kind of max out, like your Mephistopheles one you mentioned. Yeah. They'll max out, but what they'll do with that is they'll grain it, re-yeast it, because the yeast will actually get drunk.
Oh, why?
And can't continue to function.
It's bacteria, right?
Yeah. And so the yeast strains and the yeast that they use is also what can create the haziness, can create different flavors. So there's multiple pieces in this, experiment, if you will, that folks can go down the path of. But that yeast is obviously creating CO2, so that CO2 is what carbonates the beer. Once they get through the end of that, they'll then do a nitro type tap, and nitro once again makes the bubbles real small. It's great with stouts. It's great with some of the sours because it gives it a different mouthfeel.
I've liked it a lot.
Yeah,
the nitro beers.
Yep.
Nitro beers.
Yeah, it's just a smaller bubbles, which makes it like almost like a creamier mouthfeel, especially even with like an IPA or a stout.
And surprise, and Guinness has always been one of those kind of anomaly. You look at it, and just by layperson, you're going to think, wow, that's going to be really heavy. It's going to make me feel like real heavy. And it doesn't. And you're like, it tastes like a milkshake. You could think you're going to be bloated, but so that's I guess that concept of
it's just it's a 6%.
Yeah.
Stout. Like a light.
The new
stout.
nitro IPA they have is totally different than the original. It
will make you feel bloated and
no.
knock you down.
Yeah, you're done.
It'll take you down. It'll take you. So this is what we're doing here. You do this over at your locations at the storefront. You do a little beer tasting class.
Tastings. We're gonna do Beer 101. I've got obviously our brewer, and I've got a guy Riley that works for us. That is, their beer knowledge is like through the roof, and it's crazy to just hear them talk. I love it. And a lot of folks, we did some Beer 101 classes before on how do you make beer. Okay. And then at the new location here in Nocatee, we'll have a brewery in the back, so we're going to do brewing classes.
So you're going to have your own label.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to throw this out there.
The Dudeology Light.
It doesn't have to be light, but what would it take? I don't want you to answer me right now, okay? What would it take to get a brand? Is it done?
Yeah,
is it a Dudeology lager, a Dudeology IPA?
We will figure something out.
We'll figure something out. Well, let's also figure out this IPA because this is the one I've been waiting for over here because I'm a huge IPA fan.
You got it.
All right.
You had anything from Captain Lawrence?
No.
These guys are out of New York.
Okay.
This is their New England IPA. So this one's kind of cool. So as I talked about, they get the flavors in these and the smell to them because they dry hop them on the tail end.
Right.
They use another thing in here called lupulin powder. So if you ever hear like Karate in the Garage from Southern Swells, they use lupulin powder for that. And basically, if you take a hop and peel the leaves back, there's powder inside there. So what these companies are starting to do is they're stripping that powder out, so you don't have to put the hop in. And then they give you just this. It's like a Breaking Bad type of concoction that they can just drop in, and it's completely hopped.
Wow.
And so it's these new ways of doing it, too.
So this is called Powder Dreams from Captain Lawrence.
Yep.
Is that the name of the... And
where
are they upstate, or where are they in New York? Do you know?
Don't know off the top of my head. I'll
DEA comes by and
read the can.
Is this a meth lab? No, we're just brewing beer.
And this is a hazy IPA. Like, look at that, and you can see this on YouTube. You can see this compared to...
That looks like it's as thick as like an apple cider or something.
It almost looks like a protein shake.
Yeah.
So, like a milkshake or something. By the way, this has been one of my favorite episodes. I'm just
really has.
I'll come back anytime you want.
And I would just say, if you're going to be a guest on the show, this is setting the standard right now. This is Tim right now, and the Really Good Beer Stop is setting the standard for what a good guest looks like.
You may have talked too soon, though. We still have the sour, the spicy pickle to go. So
this is true. This is true. This is a 28-3 lead going into the third quarter.
I think the killer beer episode's going to be
killer beer. This is
max out on subscribes
because these hazy IPAs, I also feel like.
But if you smell it, it's tons of citrus.
Definitely,
that's the hop smell coming out, and then the flavor's also going to be real citrusy.
Oh, man, that's good. See, I could drink this. I could have one of these in the summertime. Yeah. Because a lot of times you say, "Oh, IPA, I can't do it in the summer. It's so hot. It's not." But like this, I could do. Right. I think it's because of that citrus. Right. What do they put? Like orange? What do they?
They don't have to.
Oh,
so if you've ever smelled like a Citra hop, but this one has I think mosaic in it.
So that's all coming from the hops.
Yeah, so
this
mosaic,
is tangerine.
I'm feeling like grapefruit flavors and scents, but there's none of that in there.
No, so what happens, so everybody knows like Sculpin, right, from Ballast Point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Ballast Point did a Sculpin beer, which is a West Coast IPA, and then they did a grapefruit Sculpin, and then they did a pineapple Sculpin. So what they'll do is they'll add some fruit adjuncts or fruit to that brew at the tail end, just to accentuate what the hops are already doing. So if you had a batch of citra hops or something in your hands, you smell it. It smells like you're smelling grapefruit, melon, lemon, all this kind of stuff.
Is there a region in the country that grows most of our hops?
It's mostly like Washington and up in the Northwest.
So that's kind of that's the climate.
Yeah, but you're starting to see, like, Florida even has hop farms now too, but they're going to be hydroponic and indoors.
Okay.
Just because the heat,
the heat will kill it. The conditions aren't there, but they can grow hydroponic hops very quickly, and then they can do like that lupulin powder. They can do other things with it too.
How big is that business right now with hydroponics?
It's booming.
Yeah,
it's booming. Figure. Yeah, it's booming because if you think of like a Bell's Two Hearted, and that blows my mind every time, especially getting into the brewing side of the world, trying to figure this out. So Bell's Two Hearted it's only hopped with Centennial hops, which is a type of hop.
Okay.
The brewery Bell's has a 10-year contract on a hop farm that creates nothing but Centennial for Bell's.
So they can only sell them to Bell's?
Yeah.
All these Centennial hops?
Yeah. They have
so it's like an exclusive agreement.
They locked out the market and bought all the Centennial hops for them, which is just like a crazy way to think
about it. They sell a lot of Bell's Two Hearted though. I mean, that's a good standard.
It's an OG line. If it's on, if you see it on, we're testing the market if it's on. Yeah, but it's just one of those things where they'll go buy the entire allotment out for 10 years, and then they'll rewrite these contracts and just continue down the path. But there's hop places popping up all over the country, but the vast majority come from out west.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we do this Dudeology, back to something self-serving for Chris and I, the Dudeology show. When we do this, like, can we come in and watch it being made? Like, can we just come in and watch the actual? Or can we help out with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. We may just have to do like a whole mini-series on...
a brewing series.
A brewing series.
If we like the sour, we'll make a Dudeology sour.
This is real. So far, I mean, this is really good.
Yeah, it's great.
So I called you guys, or went into the store. You would sell me this in like a 6-pack. Like, how do you sell like what you?
Yeah, so that beer itself comes just as a single can, because what we've found with those is if you price it to where we can keep our doors open, it's going to be a $22 4-pack, and there's not many people that want to spend $22 on that. Right. So what we try to do is we try to scale it back and say, okay, you spend $5 or $6 on a can because that's what you're going to pay for a pint anyways. And then when we get those in, we've got a section where you can kind of pick and choose, so you don't have to commit to an entire 4-pack, because you've tried it now. You may go in and say, I'd love 4 of those, versus buying 4 of those for $20+ and then saying, okay, I don't want that. I don't like it, and that's the last thing we want to do. So we've created an experience, hopefully, with our board, and then also with our mix packs that you can kind of pick and choose what you want.
Yeah.
But I think with this stuff too, if you think about like the market, you've done all this homework, I'm sure. But if you go to a wine place, you're gonna minimum spend $20 on a bottle of wine, which is one bottle of wine. Yep. And I think with beer, if you're getting a really good beer, $20 isn't a big deal to spend on that. You know, to get a 4-pack. Of something you're really going to drink, you're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be something a little different than just going up to the grocery store and grabbing something off the shelf.
Yep.
Yeah, a buddy of mine told me one who's a big like wine guy, and I'm not. I'm not. I know like 2 kinds of wine, red and white. A little bit more. But he said, listen,
is a rosé like a blend?
Right, exactly. 2.5.
The two come together, makes it.
And he said, look, man. He said, look. There's some things that life's too short for, and crappy wine is one of them. And I think the same thing about beer. Like, this is a beer, one of these this one right here we're drinking, that I could enjoy it, savor it, cooking out like, or grilling out like a steak or something. So how do you what's your opinion on like pairing beers with certain foods?
Oh yeah.
Like, for instance, what would a hazy IPA typically
spicy
go with?
Anything that's going to be like spicy or real peppery.
Okay.
Would be good with that. We do, and we'll do it in both locations again this year, where we had the Girl Scouts come in and do a cookie pairing. And you do that with stouts and stuff. So stouts are obviously real chocolatey, coffee flavors, those types of things. So you
kind of dip a tag along.
Now, were these the Girl Scouts moms? They weren't the Girl Scouts.
No, we had to be very careful.
You bought the cookies and then told the Scouts to stay outside.
Scouts stay outside. So you get, Scouts up front.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but you can do pairings with that. Even like I brought beef jerky to do this, pairs well too with beers like this as well. So I mean, there's all kinds of cool ways to do it, and even like cooking with beer, there's fun things to do with that as well.
You mean like using it as an
ingredient? Yep.
Ingredient.
Yep.
Nice.
So the stouts, I've noticed they've got a lot of these different, that sound more a little dessert-ish.
Yep.
With chocolate stouts and things like that.
It's
you
gone.
guys?
It's gone.
Man, I went back for more on
For
that.
all of you guys listening, Brandon just picked up the can and it was empty. We're
picked up the powdered dreams. Again, this is
some in here.
Captain Lawrence. I think the key with all these though is that you go to Really Good Beer Stop, and what we're getting right here on the show is the exact same experience that you're going to get there. Like Tim and his crew they're just you guys love what you do.
Oh yeah,
you love what you do.
100%.
And what's your favorite part of doing what you do?
It's fun to see somebody come in and our biggest thing is loving like repeat customers of folks that come back and say, okay, well, you know what, last time I came in, it was such a good experience. I learned something, or I had a good time. We want to be a community tap room. That was our goal all along. So it's, I grew up in the training world in corporate America, and I also just really enjoy that part of nerding out and talking about IPAs and why things do and why things are the way they are. So, it's exciting to kind of go through and be able to teach folks and follow that same path that I did, 6-7 years ago with this little growler store in Atlanta, and kind of just walking my way through it.
So tell us, our listeners, a little bit about going from corporate America to opening, a really good beer stop. Because I think a lot of guys are hesitant to take that risk. They're fearful.
Yep.
They're like, how do I turn a dream into reality?
Right. I'm still in corporate America.
Okay, there you go. Side hustle for all of you listening.
Well, but
I
also
got 6 side hustles.
Like how much? Yeah, like how much involved is Angie, and like how important is to have that partner?
She's the rock, man. She's the one figuring it out, and she's the one opening the Noxty store. And I go back to, we opened Jack's Beach, but before we opened Jack's Beach, we were talking to the folks down here about coming to Noxty first, which was crazy to think that it was been like 6 years we've been talking to them. And having the support of her has obviously made this work. It is what it is. But I do still work in medical sales. I still, I've been in that world for 23 years now. My thought about all of it though is at a point you say, okay, I want to just go do something on my own. I'm gonna go figure this out. I'm gonna go, and is it gonna print money and be different? It hasn't, and I don't know that it will, but it's a fun hobby, and I've met unbelievable people, and if I can do that and have people come in and say, well, you know what, we love this place, we love everything about it, then that's great to me. I'm super excited about it. And it is a side hustle. It becomes a grind, but I wouldn't change any of it. Because it gets to a point where you're like, all right, well, now that I've stressed myself out that much, ultimately your brain and body get used to it, and you're just like, all right, I'm just going to continue on.
Yeah. You know what I feel that, and it's just kind of really cool and really inspirational. You go into the spot in Jack's Beach. I know it'll be the same here in Nocatee, and it's like the family friendly version of Cheers. It really is. It's like a neighborhood thing, but it's a family. I mean, sometimes your kids will be in there, like kind of like helping out, unpack stuff, or doing whatever.
I don't know if child labor laws are good.
Yeah, well, you'll see. Look, you'll see.
Redact that.
Yeah, you'll see. Redacted. You'll see Angie, doing something, and you're kind of working on it, and it's just like, and there's people in there. To your point, like the relationships that are repeating and that are coming in. It's just awesome, and what you guys are doing is phenomenal, and I'm excited to have that kind of out in this community, that we can have a place where, to steal the tagline from Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
And another thing that's really cool is I feel like y'all are always helping out with some outreach.
Yep.
Right. Whether it's like Mission Morale or Toys for Tots, and you're allowing folks to kind of come in and put their little like, hey, help out with this, or would you like to round up for a donation? Like all those things are there.
Yep.
So you guys really use your business and your storefronts as an opportunity to do for the community.
Absolutely.
And to do for folks that can't do for themselves. So kudos to you, man. I wanted to give you all the props before you feed this last beer to me because I could change. It's a sour, so it could change my demeanor pretty quickly.
Have you guys ever had sours?
Bring us home.
No, I have not. Epicurean.
All right, so this is
What's this called?
spicy pickle. So Urban Artifact
I
is
don't eat spicy pickles. Just
I've heard. Okay, I've been reading about the health benefits of hydrating with pickle juice.
There you go.
And so I'm really excited about this. Yeah.
I would think it would dehydrate you with like the salt in there.
No,
it's good
salt
for you.
is great for
hydration.
hydration.
Yeah, salt is good.
So maybe I take one of these on like one of my next like long range races.
Epicurean.
So these guys are funny. They're an all sour brewery. We had one in probably 3 weeks ago. It was just a pickle sour. So they'll use pickle juice, and they add cucumbers in it to kind of cut all the saltiness. But what they've done with these is it's a beer called a Goza, which is a German style beer, and they'll basically go through all the process. There's not a whole lot of hops in it. They may do some for flavor, and then they'll sour the beer. And the way they sour it is through things like Brettanomyces, which is a type of yeast that they'll throw in it, or they could use something just as simple as yogurt and use the pieces of like parts of yogurt to sour beers.
I'm imagining
It's crazy. So
this
they
experiment.
This
The first time.
I don't want to be anywhere near that cauldron or whatever. What's it called?
When the mad scientist years ago was trying to make a sour, he's throwing all kinds of
Just
throw some yogurt in there. I know he's eating the yogurt in there.
He's like,
the way that
this
these
yogurt smell bad. Throw it in there.
yeah, the way that these had to have come out was
Okay,
This is the part where you go to YouTube and you watch our faces.
Wow, it's
you have to
pungent.
try
It
it.
stings the nostrils.
I've never tried it. So. Spicy pickle.
Smell
60%
that pickle juice.
60%
Oh,
of the
that
time,
doesn't smell
it
bad
works
at all.
every time.
Yeah.
That's good.
Cheers.
I love this. You
All
guys
right,
are gonna
bring
hate
us
it.
home. Bring us home.
Interesting. It tastes like I thought it might taste.
It tastes like
That's not bad at all. So the first part of that is the same beer that I had before, the pickle one that I told you about. The back part, how it has like a lingering spice, is what they do on the tail end of it too. It just creates that spiciness on the end.
So for the folks that, for all our listeners right now, if you took a bag of Sour Patch Kids, and you know how there's like all the sour sprinkles left at the bottom of the bag when all the patches, the gummies have been eaten, and you multiplied that by 4 or 5 times, and then put a pickle in it and ate the pickle. That's what this tastes like right now. That's the only way I can explain that.
Good description.
It's spicy on the
It's
throat.
got heat on it.
Got
Yep.
something.
I feel like I need another illuminated Brewworks.
I'll finish this one.
I feel like I need another one of these to wash this one down because this is spicy.
When you smell it, is there not like a nutty smell? A little bit?
I can't. It stings the nostrils. Seriously, I can't smell or taste anything right now. So it's like
There is a little bit of
I
a.
feel like a little bit of
Yep. I would agree with that.
a snob here. Is
Have
there
you sold
not a
any of
nutty,
these?
woodsy smell?
Have you sold any of these yet?
We're actually doing this as a PSA. We need to sell
This
more.
is right. We need to sell more. What is
That's actually the last can in the whole store.
Epicurean? Is it?
Yep.
Epicurean. So
Yeah,
you have some. Sours are a newer thing, aren't they? Though, like
They are, and
newer beer.
it goes back to. This is probably the worst sour ever to start you guys on. So sorry, I apologize.
It's like, hey, do you want to go for a run? I'm doing this thing called Iron Man next week. Sure, let's go.
Yeah, we need baby steps.
I think we should keep this
can.
can.
I think we should
here.
definitely keep that.
But yeah, you've now been brought into the sour world. You're getting a little bit of heartburn.
How do I get out of the sour world? Is that an option?
Yeah, I think you have a little bit left to do.
There you go.
We're going to have to take the show over to the new Really Good Beer Stop location to cleanse our palates here after the...
All right,
100%.
live show. So here's what we got. We got beer coming from Really Good.
We'll work that out.
The Dudeology. We're going to come in and take some videos of us. Try not to mess it up. We won't bring any pickles or yogurt.
Just clean your
with
hands.
us to clean our hands, wash our hands.
Just use COVID protocols.
Definitely, absolutely. So we help you with that. We are going to if you're ever in the Jacksonville Beach area and you need beer, go here. Go to the Really Good Beer Stop, and absolutely. If you're in the St. Johns County area, northern St. Johns County, Knoxville area, and you need beer, go to the Really Good Beer Stop. What else can we do to help you guys out and support you? Because we love what you're doing and we're big fans.
Absolutely. No, I mean it's all those things of the two areas. Obviously, supporting both, and then our big thing is community. So if we can help from a community standpoint, if you have something you want to do or something we can help you with, we're happy to talk. I don't know that we've ever turned a charity down.
Yeah.
So we're all about that because we can bring a crowd, we can bring people in, and if that helps anybody else do something else, and that's even better for us too.
That's great. You know what I'm thinking about too. You mentioned it earlier. Is the Beer 101 class. Yep. Taking your wife out on a date. That'd be great. I mean, you're both learning. You're seeing how beer's made. You're trying some different beers. Maybe getting a little intoxicated together.
It's always good. Yeah, right.
That always leads to good things.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah,
not a bad thing.
So
the lowering of inhibitions in a healthy, committed relationship is never a bad thing.
Right.
But I would always check us out on Instagram. It's just Really Good Beer Stop. Facebook is RGBS Jack's Beach. It's soon to be Really Good Beer Stop. And that'll cover both areas, and we'll put a bunch out there as far as what our calendars are going to be and when we get things open, what those programs will be. So the other goal of this too is not only beer 101s, but tastings, but we'll also have breweries in, like Captain Lawrence. They're like one of our first breweries we're going to have in our Nocatee location. And they'll come out, we'll put 3 or 4 beers on tap. Their rep will be there. You can come out and learn about their beer directly from the source.
That's we're definitely
now, when somebody
learn about that.
Right now, where you've got COVID and everything, when somebody orders online, they can just come by and pick it up, or are you guys delivering? What's going on?
Yeah, so if somebody you can go to reallygoodbeerstop.com. You can order online for either check to pick up or have it delivered. And we're delivering to the Nocatee area as well as in the Jacksonville Beach area.
That's awesome.
All of this right here is what we refer to on the show as good action. Okay, and there's we'll have to give you we gave the definition of good action a couple episodes back in our trivia episode.
I think you just named your beer.
Good action.
Yes, and this really has been this whole show. All of this has been good action. But Tim, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for kicking all this. Thanks for dropping some hops knowledge and joining us today. Make sure to check out Really Good Beer Stop, as well as catching up on all of our past episodes, and subscribe on wherever you listen to your podcast. For the full video experience, make sure to check us out on YouTube from the studios, and on behalf of all dudes making it happen. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to The Dudeology Show, your spot for cool stories, awesome stuff, and killer gear. Make sure to subscribe to us on your favorite listening platform and follow us on social media at Dudeology Show.